the Batcave, Hall of Justice, USS Enterprise, Hogwarts, and even the Black Pearl. What these places and things share in common is just how integral they are to the stories that they reside in. Because to the characters in these stories, these are much more than just places. They're home. And most importantly, they matter. So today, I'm going to go over some tips and tricks to giving your players a home base that will matter to them also. I hope you guys are ready. Let's get started. Welcome, adventurers. What's going on, guys? My name is Cody, and this is Taking 20, a channel about all things role-playing games. And today, of course, we are talking about home bases. I love creating home bases for players in my game, and it doesn't matter if you're playing Dungeons & Dragons 5e, or Starfinder, or Call of Cthulhu. Giving your players a home base is a fantastic way to draw players into the game and to give them something else to care about. But there are some tricks to this, and we can't simply throw a castle at them and tell them that they have a bunch of maintenance fees now. What we want to do is we want to make them fall in love with their home base in a way that adds to the game and that doesn't make it just riddled with a bunch of spreadsheets. So here are a few Dungeon Master tips to help you utilize home bases in your next D&D game. Number one is to make it unique. A castle is great, we get it. I mean, it's a freaking castle. What more could a farmer turned adventurer want, right? But to really make your players buy into their new shiny castle, we want to make it something really interesting. Something that will make them ooh and ah over. Something that they will find memorable and really cherish. Instead of another castle on a hill, give them a fortress intertwined into an ancient spirit tree that raises up to look over an entire forest. Give them a castle secretly buried beneath a lake and whose entrance lifts up out of the water when given the password. Don't give them just another ship. Give them the Black Pearl, raised from the seafloor by Davy Jones himself, accompanied by its signature black hole and black sails. This is basically the rule of cool here, guys, okay? So give your players something really awesome and don't be afraid to make it a little badass. And this is the second tip I have, which is to give it an advantage. I'm talking about a hard-coded game mechanic advantage. Let it actually do something cool for your players. And to add to this, let this perk or perks kind of grow with them. Maybe your players settle into a home base with the Emerald Enclave and soon find themselves with access to a network of teleportation circles. Or maybe they've taken the time to set up a custom library and arcane lab that allows the party's wizard to research new spells. Maybe your players save up enough gold to build a workshop on their starship that allows them to modify weapons in half the time. If you want your players to care about their new home base, having it give them an advantage is a fast track to just that. And this is an excellent way to help them spend their gold. If you give them a chance to upgrade their home base with a cool new perk or two, and this doesn't have to be like overcomplicated, right? We're not talking about 45 incremental levels of upgrades into a whole new minigame. Then you can relax a bit when it comes to dishing out the gold. And you might even find your players more eager to jump into another adventure and perhaps even easier to motivate them with money. My next tip is to make sure you are tailoring your home base to your players. And I'll explain what I mean. If your players are the type of group that wants to have a lot of little add-ons and management, and they enjoy the upkeep of making their home base a little board gamey, then go for it. It's a lot of fun. I think in some cases, in the right campaign, that this is in fact a lot of fun to do. Not to mention, it's a great way to keep your players engaged in the game in between sessions. However, not all groups are going to care. Some groups are going to despise upkeep and making decisions on how to improve their home base to maximize it. And it's very important as dungeon masters and game masters to recognize that before throwing a ton of spreadsheets at your players. So be mindful of the type of group you have and don't be afraid to ask them, right? It's perfectly acceptable to metagame this and to poll the group on just how detailed they want to be with their new home base. You might even find that you have people in your group that want the minigame and people that have no desire for it. And if that's the case, then you might even find it a good solution to assign the analytical players stuff to do with the home base, as long as the rest of the group agrees and doesn't really care. And if you do, be sure that that stuff stays completely out of the normal game time. Tip number 4 is to give your home base a memorable caretaker. What would Batman and the Batcave be without Alfred? 221B Baker Street without Mrs. Hudson? The Command Center from Power Rangers without Alpha 5? The answer is a bit less meaningful to the protagonist. So a fast way to have all of our players fall in love with their home base is to give them a really memorable caretaker for the base itself. And I'm of the opinion that you should make the caretaker be somebody that is genuinely helpful and that they enjoy being around. Now, while you can technically have the caretaker be someone who is kind of a jerk, i.e. Creature for the House of Black, the strongest emotional attachments for your players are going to be built around caretakers that love what they do and are happy to just be a part of the team. But remember, the key to a great caretaker is making them memorable. So spend a little time on coming up with a caretaker for your game, one that stands out to your players and makes them care. And finally, my last tip is to be sure and make the characters feel safe in their home base. It may be very tempting for you to have the bad guy scope out the home base and come in and sack it while nearly killing or even kidnapping the beloved caretaker. But do your best to avoid this. Now, I'm not saying this because this is a trope, right? It is a trope, but I actually don't have any issues with using tropes. In fact, I think they're a lot of fun. Of course, this is a topic for a different video, but you don't want to create a sense of panic and paranoia in your players all the time. If your players don't ever feel like they can let their guard down, even in their own home base, then they'll never trust your NPCs. And when you want to create a sense of paranoia in them, it won't have the punch you want it to. Not to mention, you really only get to play this card once in a campaign. Having your players attacked or betrayed in their home base is devastating. Cypher's betrayal of Morpheus and the rest of the crew in the Matrix comes at a high cost. And it had a huge impact on the characters in the film and was really a turning point. But as far as storytelling goes, this could really only happen once. If it happened again and again, it would have really become boring. So save this card. This is an ace in the sleeve. One that once you play it will completely change the tone of your game and your players' ability to trust. So my advice is to just say no to attacking their home base, unless you're absolutely certain that that is where you want to take the story. And if it is, then hit them where it hurts and hit them hard. I want to give a huge shout out to all of my amazing patrons over at welcomeadventurers.com. It's because of you I'm able to make these videos, which I love doing, and continue to grow the channel and maybe, hopefully, one day, even do this as a full-time job, which I just simply wouldn't be able to do without your help. So thank you all for all of the amazing support. I really appreciate it. So now it's time to pass it over to you, the community, to see what you guys think about using home bases in your game. If you're a player, what's the coolest home base you've ever used in a game? And if you're a dungeon master or game master, what are some of the more interesting ways that you have used home bases in a campaign? Also, guys, if you are not in the Taking 20 Discord yet, you're missing out. I'll leave a link down in the description box below. It's free to join. There's a ton of stuff going on right now. So come hang out with us and even find some new people to game with. If this is your first time here and you love role-playing games as much as I do, I'd love to have you subscribe. Every week I'll be putting out new videos on GM tips, player tips, tutorials, and more. So if that sounds like something you might be interested in, just hit that subscribe button down below and come join us. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Cody, and may your games be filled with awesome memories and even better friends. I'll catch you guys next time.
Yeah.